What is up, YouTube? It's Aaron back here with the channel. We got On the Bubble episode 24, I think, 25. We got Rahan, we got Logan, we've got our special guest of the week who we keep bringing in whenever they do well at an event. How are you doing today, Cormac?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. I feel like I'm the person that Aaron just kind of ropes in whenever he wants to get extra person
Santoli
for
is definitely
content.
on the list. Aditi is on the list. Like, we got to make sure we have some diversity. All right.
I'm your
Um,
person across the pond for you.
yeah,
So
you're
yeah.
you're the European diversity. Unfortunately, that is your rule. So yeah, we've got what are the topics today? We've got Banlist Discussion, we've got Cormac's last weekend, so like the first weekend of Blazing Dominion, and then we'll kind of combine it all at the end with how does it look post Banlist and post Blazing. So yeah, let's hop right into it. Real quick, Logan, Rahan, how you two doing? Been a little bit.
I've been doing well. I've been really sick. Like still kind of sick, but the YCSs have just been killing me this year. I don't know why. Every time I get back.
So obviously you decide to book another one the second you can, right?
Yeah, I booked one last minute, and I'm homeless on Thursday and homeless Sunday, so I'm probably gonna like kill my immune system again.
Yeah, this could only go well, surely.
I'll find somewhere to stay.
Thank God. Rahan, how about you?
Good. I was super busy over the past month. That's why I wasn't on the podcast. But I'm finally done school, so I am much more available and
Yeah.
finally able to commit to this game.
Yeah, this is what we've all been looking forward to. It's for Rahan to finish school so we can play more Yu-Gi-Oh! God bless America. Or Canada in this situation. Alrighty, so I think that wraps up the intro. Let's hop right into it. We have the Forbidden and Limited list that was released. When was it? May 11th, I believe. So last past Monday.
Mhm.
So you've obviously seen all the initial reactions, so we can do a little bit of like thoughts on it, and then just kind of what we think about the list as a whole. I think we'll like kind of skim through everything because everyone kind of knows what's on the list at this point, and we'll get into that. So, Noroi, Rosewhip, and random gimmick puppet XYZ that performs FTKs that doesn't need to exist. On the limited list, we've got a much longer one: Cupsy Yummy, Fairy Tale Snow, Malice White Rabbit, Cupsy Yummy Way, the Synchro, Branded Fusion, Metamorphosis, Premature Burial, Radiant Typhoon Chance, Rahu Draco Tail, and Synchro Overtake as a pre-hit to Cool Tune, whatever that deck is, and then two semi-limits of Lucius and Artheline. So I think we'll kind of go down the panel, give your thoughts on the list, and then at the end we can kind of discuss the ban list as a whole. Rahan, what are your thoughts now that you've played it, or at least thought about it for a few days?
I think the list is okay. I think a lot of people were tired of the old decks, and it's kind of something similar that we saw at the beginning of Juhu format, where even though like the old decks were kind of sticking around, I think the incentive for a lot of people is to play with the new decks, just because the old decks have been around for so long that I don't think people will still continue to take like Yummy and Drickotail, especially with like their hit states now. I think the ban list did enough to kind of like make those decks remain playable, but still de-incentivize like competitive players from taking them to events. But like VS wasn't hit, so I wasn't a big fan of this list.
I think Noroi is a legitimate hit to the deck. K9 was definitely the most powerful part of the deck, specifically going first, right? Like that is how you bridged everything. You made Ripper efficiently before everything. So Droll will definitely be an impactful card against that deck now compared to before. So I think it is definitely a hit towards that deck. Cormac?
Yeah, this list was kind of weird. I think a lot of people were just clamoring for a list, but I don't think they necessarily knew what they wanted. I think they just wanted a little bit of change.
Yeah.
So I think this list was always going to be a bit difficult to really make people happy. But one thing I did find a little bit disappointing, and it might just be the case that we've been really fortunate with the last couple of lists that Konami have really been listening and sort of addressing some things early or getting rid of some of the more toxic parts of the game, such as floodgates and things like that. There really wasn't a whole ton of that on this list. We see the gimmick puppet here, which hadn't really seen too much play yet, but I know it was played as part of the Mitsu FTK, so the puppets wanted to get rid of that. But I would have liked to have seen some hits to a few more of the problem cards I feel that exist in the game, Shifter, Dimensional Fissure, things such as this. There wasn't really any of that, which I was a little bit disappointed by. And I think some of the engine hits were a little bit questionable as well. Like, why are we putting Arthur Lions to 2? Like that card has
Cupsy
already
Yummy
been
Way
played at
to
2 in
one,
every single Drake list. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it felt a little bit little bit more of a miss than I think the last couple of ban lists have been. But on the whole, I think it's it's generally a good list. I do like they released it with some small hits, at least to Cool Tune as well, so that it wasn't just immediately coming out like full power while everything else got hit. You got to sort of roam free. So that's one positive I'll get to it at least. But yeah, probably like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 ban list at most.
Logan.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you guys said. I think like the anticipation for the ban list was it was a bit of a letdown with what they did give us. I don't think it was awful. I think they had to kill Draco Tail. I don't really understand like the Yummy Way hit and the Arthur Lion hit and even really the Lucaeus hit. I'm not really sure. It feels like they like created a list and then like somebody that like didn't really understand the game came in after and like said these cards also have to be hit and then they like had to agree to like put two lists together. 'Cause I feel like double Arthur Lion, double Lucaeus, or like just like one Arthur Lion, one double Lucaeus would have been like enough of a hit, especially with the Branded Fusion to one as well. I don't think they had to put Rahu to one. And like the Yummy Way hit, I don't understand. Like, did they play one game of like Cool Tune versus Yummy, and they're like, oh, like people are gonna start playing 2 Yummy Way to dodge Crackle? Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
They got away from hitting all the floodgates and like end board pieces that they've been hitting for like the last year and a half, 2 years or whatever. They
Yeah.
really didn't address anything, mistaken arrest, defissure, shifter, droll, any of that stuff. And also the malice hit is like completely out of touch, but I think they're just trying to keep that deck alive so they can keep selling Dominus Spark, I guess.
Spark's played in like 2 or 3 other top tier decks, so it seems.
Yeah, it's played in Branded sometimes. It's played in Mitsu. Like I don't think their sales would have been affected if they just banned Dormouse or banned Ransom. So
Yeah.
it's definitely weird. It doesn't feel like the person or the people who worked on this list also worked on the last like few lists.
Yeah,
But
I think that was.
something's off with it for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the last like we'll say what 3 or 4 lists have all been like fantastic in terms of like trimming all like the not like fat, but like trimming all like the really problematic cards. Like if like let's say like they were continuing down the path of the past few, I would have expected like cards that you mentioned like Shifter Droll they've kind of like done in and out, but like a card like DDG as a card that I've kind of expected to get hit. Die-Fi to 1 or whatever. Like I think there's definitely examples like Mistaken Arrest. Like those are all just like toxic side deck cards that like over the course of time they've been kind of like limiting
Yeah,
or like removing from the game completely, and this one didn't touch that really at all. I do think the Rosebud Pit is a good one. Like that card would have been really just like frustrating to deal with.
100%.
But like here, I'm gonna pull up like or actually I don't remember what we predicted that was on the ban list. We did that episode probably like a month or 2 ago. Do you remember everything we discussed? Like Reaper and there's some other
we
stuff.
put a whole bunch of like Floodgate and cards at Bridge.
Yeah.
Like, we thought they would ban like either Lollipo or Yummy Way. Hornet Drones was one that we had on there. I remember that. We talked about like Dracotel Flame maybe getting banned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm still on the boat of like I didn't want Dracotel to get killed, and if it was gonna get hit, I thought it was Fimena because like everyone's big complaint with that deck is usually like the turn 0 stuff, which I don't even think turn 0 Fimena is that oppressive right now. Maybe against like Cool Tone would have been above average, but
it's really
like
still
limiting
being branded
Rahu, I think just kind of
like turn 0 5 is like low key like actively bad against Cool Tune most of the time.
yeah. Like, maybe you can like
just,
pop
like,
a
yeah,
pan and like
Rico-
do some
yeah,
stuff, but
Rico
like
mixer,
your
yeah.
entire board's gonna get wiped if they have any way to extend. So it seems pretty concerning.
Turn 0 5 is so good against branded.
Yeah, it is.
That yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna
It's
say
so
turn 0
bad.
5 is not like good like a fair amount of time, right? But like it's definitely like not as it's not an FTK like we'll say Holy Sue was like that card was just like never negged. You couldn't do really anything about it. And 5 mana, like even if like you got hit by it, you're just like okay, like now I can just like wipe their board, and then you have like 2 cards or whatever. So yeah, and then like the random stuff like Chance and like you mentioned like Cupsy Yummy Way to 1 and White Rabbit, and I can't imagine Fairy Tale Snow stays off the list for more than like 2 ban lists. That card is just like never okay. Is this like the 3rd time it's been unbanned? And right, like I know
it got banned, unbanned,
Yes.
banned, unbanned.
So this is its 3rd time being legal. Yeah, like it was
Third
banned
time being
before
legal.
tier format, then brought back for tier
banned
format, and then banned
twice,
like right after that.
Legal 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it
I
will be
think it
banned the
also
3rd
got-
time I'm very
I think
confident.
it got limited as well, right? It went
It
from
was
like
limited
3 to 1.
when it got brought back.
3 to 1 to ban to 1 to ban to 1.
It's gonna get banned again. Like, there's just no possible way this card is acceptable. Like, I refuse to believe. They really just wanted to sell this.
I'm not so sure yet, but
You don't think? I think right now there isn't a deck that can take advantage of it, but this card has just like never been okay. So that's my take on that card.
I'm not positive. I think like that card was more broken in old Yu-Gi-Oh because you had less things that you could do, and like getting your normal summon stopped or getting your tuner booked or whatever, like your level 4 your booked was like a way bigger problem than it is now. And also there's like more, I feel like there's more counters to like graveyard stuff now. People are playing like Ghost Spell, Bestials, like I think there's like more stuff that you can do and like more ways to play through it.
So
I don't know
Bestials
if
were
it'll
legal
get
the last time
banned.
Snow was legal
Ye-
for a little
Sure.
bit. It was
For a
like
little
the
bit,
Minneapolis tier format.
But also that format Snow was like not really that big of a problem, right? They kind of banned it without it being like a super big problem, right?
I think they
thought it
wanted to
was.
just
It
like
was
lower
put
the
in tier, no?
ceiling. They wanted to lower the ceiling of tier. I think pre-Ishizu, if I had to guess. I don't remember like everything, but that sounds about right.
Yeah,
I just think that
I don't
card
think
just like
people were like actually playing Snow when it was banned. I think they were more worried about it like about to see play in tier.
probably. I just that like the big thing with that card. I mean, and it may just be like a deck building thing now. Is like whenever you're playing like the big engine decks, like it was just like a free card that you milled a lot of times. So we'll see if like decks are able to like regain that ability. Like there aren't grass decks anymore in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, just because like you kind of need non-engine to function. So if there is a deck at some point that just like, because like there's no dweller, right? Like it wouldn't surprise me if just like big engine slop deck. Like obviously Brandon's kind of like that right now, but something that just like graveyard dot deck ends up being an option. So yeah, I mean y'all kind of gave your overall rating. I think Cormac, you said like a 5 or a 6. Rahan, Logan, do you have any strong thoughts one way or the other based on that?
Yeah,
Not really.
it's like a 5 or a 6. I think this ban list could really benefit from like another one of those like cleanup ban lists where they come in at like a month later and ban like 8 floodgates like we had at the end of last year, I think. Because
Yeah, right
we
after
did get
Anaheim.
one ban. Yeah, we did get one ban list last year that people weren't that impressed by, and then like a few weeks later we got the cleanup list or whatever.
I mean, I do see a cleanup list coming, right? Like, the next set Chaos Origin isn't as expected to like shape the meta that much. And then right after Worlds, we have the now newly announced the new
Grandmaster
set
Rares.
with all the Grandmaster Rares, right? So
Yeah.
now that's going to be coming. And I think those cards do impact the meta a lot. So if anything, I think after Nationals, and then maybe after Worlds, I can see like a big cleanup list as we then like segue into a new metagame. Because right now, like for example, if you just entirely killed off a lot of like the current decks, there's not a lot in Blazing Dominion, bar like the Media's decks that really take over the metagame. And even now, I think the Media's decks are kind of like on the fringes of tier one. Like there's Doomsday and Elf Note, but I feel like those aren't the big three that people are kind of developing for Columbus.
Yeah.
So I think Logan's right. There will be like a cleanup list, but I think right now probably wasn't the correct time to release it.
Yeah, I will see. Like, if Full Tune just takes over like 25 of 32 slots in Columbus, then like we'll see. But like this is usually about the time where we get like the WCQ list, and unfortunately, based off like past precedent, it is usually one of the worst formats of the year, just due to like the power level of the game being pretty high due to like all those decks being out. This is, I think, the first time in a while where I don't think it's gonna be like super insanely high because like they just killed all the like the Just Hunters decks, which was like this year's cycle. But I'm still a little like I'd be disappointed if like this was the meta for Nationals. I don't think there's like honestly something that's gonna change it. But I just like don't love all of the decks right now. A lot of it feels kind of stale. Like even though Draco Tail is like old at this point, like Mitsu and Malice are older. So like I don't and like Vanquishal is whatever 4 years old. Striker's a decade old at this point or whatever. So like even though people are complaining like oh Draco Tail's been like this really strong deck for a long time, like these decks that are still around are even older. So like I just didn't really love that approach to how it all is going down. Any additional thoughts, Cormac, before we hop into your past weekend?
No, yeah, all good. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what the guys are saying here. I do think this, WCQ format will probably be a little bit lower of a power level, although there's some things that are just going to be toxic. I mean, Cool Tune in general. It's just a bit toxic when you get to see your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to just survive that and find ways to get an edge wherever we can.
Yeah, that's kind of my, I guess, like, last thing. That's kind of why I'm disappointed they pre-hit Cool Tune. I kind of wanted it to be, like, really, really dumb. That way they would release something else prior to the WCQs. But because they already hit Overtake, I think it's unlikely that I don't think that card is, like, super oppressive, but, like, they also, like, I just think overall this deck's not going to be super oppressive because then, like, Rosebud got hit. Like, they're not going to be like, this deck's just 70% of top cut and have to release something. So, like, okay, like, we tamed it, and then at some point in the future, we'll, like, limit Rico or Mix or whatever. Like, just do whatever the hell they need to do. Yeah. So, on that note, we can hop into the past weekend's results, so this is pre-Banlist, post-Blazing Dominion. And I think this was the first weekend for those events. So Cormac, kind of talk about I don't know what I'm saying. Talk to us about kind of how you prepared for that transition.
Yeah, it was a little bit interesting because I actually haven't really been playing a whole lot of Yu-Gi-Oh for the past 9-ish months or
I
so.
was gonna say a year or
I
two.
think you're close to it. Yeah, I played YCS Lille in September of last year, and then because I'm in Europe and we get hardly any events, because I wasn't able to go to YCS Bologna in November of last year, I basically just didn't bother, putting in time in between because there wasn't really anything to prepare for or play for. And then got to early into this year, and then again there wasn't really a whole lot of events going on, so I didn't really play a whole lot. I actually didn't have my invite for Euros before going into nationals this year, because I was just like, I wasn't playing. There's barely any regionals in Ireland. I got scammed out of top 64 at Lille. It is what it is. So I basically just came into this format pretty fresh. But what I did do is I started playing and thinking a lot about Cool Tune when it came out in Master Duel, because it came out in Master Duel about a month before TCG, I believe.
Yeah.
So myself and a few friends who play quite a lot of Master Duel are sort of preparing for the WCQ season over there. Pretty much from the day that it came out, we just sort of really honed in on it straight away and tried figuring out how to optimize, play patterns, what are our lines, what looks like a good deck list, all this sort of stuff. And I think that really helped in terms of the technical play aspect for this deck. Obviously, there's some things that you change when you go to TCG, but I think a big aspect of this deck that probably gets underrated a little bit just because people see, oh, you look at your opponent's hand and you get to auto win. There is actually quite a bit of technical play involved in this deck, and I think you really need to know what to do in a lot of certain scenarios. Like there's some games you're going to be able to just starve your opponent out of playing the game, but when you can't do that, you need to understand what you're meant to do with all of your interactions to put yourself in the most advantageous situation. So I think that was a really big benefit for me from having a good bit of experience with that ahead of time, because I think a lot of people were coming in, first weekend, they play like a little bit online, but that weekend was the first time they really sat down and put a good amount of time in with the deck. So I think I definitely had a bit of an edge there. And then it was just a couple of things we were like figuring out over time. So understanding what were good things to sign into like the mirror match that maybe give us a little bit of an edge that some people wouldn't play. And then kind of just understanding what our general play patterns are into certain decks. Like for each matchup, when you see their hand, like what is the end board that you're trying to go for each different matchup? Do you want to have your negates? Do you want to have more set the follow up play? And yeah, I think that was a major reason why I was able to do well at this event.
Yeah. So I mean, it makes sense. Like, obviously, you're the only one cool in that top. It's like, I think, like you mentioned, the deck is relatively complex. Obviously, like you said, like there are really toxic aspects of it where, like, you look at their hand, there's level modulation in some matchups. Like the deck has a lot of unfair things in it, but in the games where the unfair things do not just like auto win, you have to do some pretty, I think, difficult like game plans. Like you have to act, like you said, it's a lot of game planning. It's a lot of just understanding the matchups and what the goal is. Like against Brandon, going first, like it's very rare you're just gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna look at your hand and see like, okay, 2 hand traps choke you out. Like you have to like be pretty meticulous in how you're gonna plan for everything. And if you look at some lists where they like have, we'll say, a lore and like just ways like see different cards, like you can't always prepare for everything. Like theoretically, there's a thrust in their hand. Okay, that card is 7 different cards. Okay, how are we playing around all those potentials? So I think it's definitely a good way to look at it. Rahan, what are your thoughts from looking at this? Oh,
Did kind of like present in a lot of the finals for nationals so far. But I'm also kind of not surprised to see that Cormac won the random matchup. I think you have to do a lot of preparation for that matchup. So like kind of echoing what Cormac already said, I think once what to expect in that matchup, I think the matchup can be sort of manageable. But I think if someone's going in blind and they're like, okay, I see starter center and all this, you kind of in essence have to be playing the deck with your opponent as well, because those cards can lead to like an amalgamation of different lines, and you don't know what your opponent's going to do. So it's really difficult to counter brand it because of that. So for anyone that's like prepping for Cool Tune, or prepping like with Cool Tune, I think one of the best things you can do is actually play the other decks, because then you start to see sort of the patterns that deck kind of goes for, and the different lines that opening hands kind of lead to, and you can start predicting what your opponent might do with those cards, rather than sort of just being reactive all the time with your plays. So I think I agree. It's definitely a really complicated deck to play well, Cool Tune. But I know on the receiving end, when someone looks at your hand, you're just like, gosh, I don't want you to look at my hand and all that. But definitely, it is a really difficult deck to play well. So it's definitely not tier 0 because of that.
Logan, what are your thoughts on the initial Cool Tune success? Do you think, like, I will say, like, okay, this format progressed. How do you think it would have played out a little more?
To be honest, I don't think the ban list really like ended up changing that much. The only thing I think that really changed was like Branded is going to take the spot of Dracotail because Dracotail was keeping Branded in check. Without Dracotail, Branded like has theoretically no bad matchups. I don't think they have any bad matchups. I think they have a lot of matchups that are like 50-50-ish or like, within a percentage point or two, but also the Branded deck is like really hard to play. It's also really hard to build, and you also have to change your deck list like kind of constantly based on like small meta changes and like shifts in like non-engine and stuff. So I think it's pretty hard to like do super well with Branded. I think I don't know if I don't know if it's worth playing unless you're somebody who's gonna be like super dedicated to the deck, or it's like someone who's like very gifted with like technical play, like naturally. I think Dracotail was gonna like fall out of the meta. I don't like not fall out of the meta, but become like maybe the 4th or 5th best deck. People were like saying for a long time that Dracotail had a good Cool Tune matchup, and I just don't think that was true. I think Cool Tune had like a very favorable Dracotail matchup. Um, I think like when you go first, you could checkmate the Dracotail deck super easily, and then going second, game 1 was definitely somewhat difficult, but post side once you got like side frames in retaliating seed, like the matchup became a lot easier. I felt. Um, so aside from that, like I don't think the meta would have progressed that differently. I think Dracotail probably would have had like maybe like a 7 to 10% meta share, and Branded would be like a 5 or 6% meta share. But I think now Branded will just like eat whatever meta share Dracotail had, and Cool Tune will probably just like remain the same.
But do you think, taking that into consideration, Cool Tune lost one of its best matchups? So I think if there
It
was no
did,
ban
yeah.
list and Dracotail was unhit, and you saw a lot of that Dracotail play keeping Branded in check, then by consequence you would have seen, I think, a lot more Cool Tune success. But now with nothing keeping Branded in check and Cool Tune losing its best matchup, I think you kind of lost a lot of favorability for Cool Tune, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a few pros and cons to that. Losing its best matchup or like one of its better matchups was definitely like a weird hit to Cool Tune that I don't think was like meant for the ban list. I don't think that's what they really meant for it to do. But there are some benefits to having Dracotail in the meta. Like the Cool Tune deck can now like have 3 side deck slots. You don't have to side Retaliating anymore, so you have more coverage for other decks, which helps. And also like even though the Brandon matchup is not good for Cool Tune, I don't think it's that bad, and I think a lot of the games come like down to skill expression because I think the Cool Tune deck and the Branded deck are both pretty difficult to play. So like if I'm the Cool Tune player, unless I'm playing against like the top 1% or 2% of like Branded players, I feel pretty comfortable. And if I get matched up into like, one of the best Branded players in the room, then, I'll take my 40% chance to win or something and just hope it works out.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I want to hear Cormac's thoughts on this. Cormac, what are your thoughts on this? Because you played this matchup.
Into Branded, yeah. I mean, Branded is definitely one of those decks that I had to account for a lot in preparation. One of the biggest things for me was that I just got a few of my mates who I know were really, really good on some of what I consider to be the harder matchups. Not necessarily you would say the worst matchups, but I would say the harder matchups that will get into very technical ground games. So Branded, Mitsurugi, Yummy Fiendsmith is actually that deck doesn't exist post Banlist really now, but that was one that we had to do a lot of preparation for because that deck was actually surprisingly a bit more difficult than it would look like on the surface. And just playing so many of these games out to understand what you need to do, like in these scenarios. So like when you play against the biggest one we did played against so many games against Mitsurugi, understanding is like, okay, cool, like this time we can't cut them off, like all of their ways to access engines. So then are we able to find a way to negate all of the ritual spells? If we can't negate all the ritual spells, how do we like prevent them getting as much advantage off of all their cards resolving as possible? If they can stick one Murakumo, but if they don't, get to end on like trap afterwards and that sort of stuff. Similar things to branded, like maybe they're able to crack that board, but then if you're able to do things like use the rotary graveyard shuffle effect to be able to get rid of some of the fusions that they put away with Fallen and Virtuous or things such as this. I think that's like those are some of the biggest aspects of that matchup. Loudness War as well. I think being able to copy some of those other effects as well. I think that's really, really huge. There's a whole lot that you could go into. I could do a full deep dive on it, but we'd be here for hours, and we're recording this at 1 a.m. my time, so I'll save everybody the absolute ridiculousness that I'd be speaking. But yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the only addition that I have to this is Draco Tail was like a pretty big meta share over the past, 3-4 months. And it also kind of warped how non-engine was played. Like, you couldn't really play breakers. They were, like, really useless. So I think that would have made, like, it introduced, like, so much variance into the format between, oh, I would like to have a breaker. I like to have breakers for Doomsday and whatever, like, Yummy decks or whatever the hell. But, like, you just, like, can't really do that against Draco Tail. And I think Branded, like, I haven't played it against it too much lately. Branded, like, breakers are, like, okay depending on what it is. Like, Rohan, what are your experience with that real quick? I'm kind of curious how you think
Um,
it affects it.
I think breakers are definitely worse than hand traps. I think it's much more easier to hand trap that deck into submission rather than using breakers just because of how layered things are.
Mhm.
But if you're pushing with like breakers and you have like strong engine like Doomsday and Mitsurugi, it
Yeah.
can just become a proper game.
That was kind of my thoughts as well. So now that we have Cool Tune, which is just like the best hand trap deck, and it feels like a lot of the meta outside of like one or two different things, like you said, Yummy's mostly dead. Vanquishal never really loved hand traps in the first place. It kind of just like did out of necessity. So now we'll kind of see what the meta looks like. This is Mexico's top 32. Like Mitsurugi would definitely prefer breakers. Raining Typhoon, very unfortunately, just got murdered in the list, which I think was unnecessary. But this would have been like a cool breaker deck that like would have, I think, benefited from this meta, right? Like you don't have to
Yeah.
play bad hand traps. Like if you want to play Shino, you can. You don't have to. Like Fu is a card that like I don't even think is mandatory anymore based off of how the meta is looking. So yeah, like I'm very curious to see how all these decks kind of shift post like a Draco Tail rules where like the deck is like if Jordan Gallagher's giving up the deck, it's unplayable, right? Like if Jesse Khan also drops it, that's when we know like the deck is dead. And I have an expectation that neither of them will show up to the next event playing that. So yeah, that kind of leads us perfectly into the like expected decks for Columbus. We're not gonna do like a full like deep dive tier list. I'll kind of pull up the decks that like I think are the most important for us to discuss, and we'll kind of peel them out from there. Cool Tune is in here somewhere. I'll let you all kind of start it off. So we've been talking about branded. I think most lists have had this towards like the top of
Yeah.
the deck tier.
I,
Logan,
I,
you seem to be
I
very
would say
high
it's
on
S
it.
tier.
Yeah, so Logan, I'll let you give some of your thoughts on it since you seem to be very high on it, and then Rahan right after.
Yeah, I think Branded's like I said, I think it's very good. It's very hard to play, very hard to build, hard to keep up with. But if you're somebody who's gonna dedicate, a lot of time to it, and especially if you're somebody who's been playing it for a while, because you can play Branded at like a baseline level, and then every game you play, you're like, oh, there was 7 things I could have like done a little bit better. And like once you just start mitigating those, I think the deck just becomes a lot better. And I think there's a lot of the branded lists that are just like I'm not a fan of. Like they play too much non-engine. I see people playing like 17, 18 non-engine, 16 non-engine in this deck. It's like it just doesn't work. I see people playing like 12, 14, 15 hand traps. It just doesn't work. I think you have to play a good amount of the bricks. I don't think you have to play as many as some people play, but I think you have to play a good amount of them. And I
Sorry.
think you have to keep your non-engine towards like 12 or 13 plus like virtuous. And I think you also want your non-engine to be not terrible going first. Like I like Book of Eclipse in this deck. Like Eclipse on a Luber when you get Imprimatur Veiler is like very strong. I think like Called by Talents is pretty good. And then like Super Poly is obviously like I think one of the best cards in the deck. So I think there's definitely this is like kind of the boogeyman deck of the format, kind of like Malice, where it's like low key the best deck in the format, but also like there's not going to be a lot of representation, I don't think. And there's also like some skill variance with it, although Malice didn't really have that much skill expression, if I'm being honest. So
Yeah,
just how
yeah,
it's
it's kind of the
positioned
inverse of
is
that
like
regard. Yeah.
is kind of similar. But yeah, I definitely think like there's two best decks, and then there's everything underneath. It's branded and cool too, number 1 and 2, however you want to order it.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Does anyone have any other they try to like toss up into this discussion?
I think I agree with a lot of Logan's points. Branded is like a deck that's constantly evolving. Like even right now, like a lot of the lists that I've been seeing in the discussions that I've had with people, I've seen like Branded evolve into like start having like different sub engines, discussions with regards, for example, like a card like Nadir being main or side, things like that. And the nice part of Branded is like there's a lot of different philosophies when it comes like how to build Branded. Like we've seen anywhere from heavy hand trap Branded to a really holy list Branded to the most unholy list branded playing all the bricks possible. So I think it's nice on that aspect because you don't really know, like, is your opponent playing Golden Sword Soul or not? Like, you pop the Ecclesia right then and there, or do you let them commit into Golden Sword Soul? Right. So there's a lot of those like things that are going around, which is interesting, which is nice because it increases like some of the decision trees for the opposing players because now you also need to be cognizant of all the different tools Branded has at its disposal, which is a lot. So I think having Branded in its current iteration is really nice in the metagame because both Branded and Cool Tune are really skill intensive decks. And I think unless you're playing, someone of like equal skill, I think a lot of the games can just be like completely rollovers.
Also, another deck that has been around for what 5 years at this point that they decided not to kill, but Draco Tail was the one they took on the chopping block. Just throwing it out there. Sorry.
But it's really different from what it was
No,
before. It was really toxic before, but now it becomes like a really
Yeah.
like good Sky
No,
Strikers
like
deck.
I don't dislike the branded deck. Like I think a lot of these decks that are in the meta are like relatively fair, but I also view Draco Tail kind of on that similar level of like it's just like a pretty good, not oppressive deck. And the way that they've hit
No,
branded, yes. What
no,
does branded do that's
there's
oppressive?
no
Sorry, Draco Tail does
what
oppressive.
nothing. The Dracotail was the best chummy deck this game has ever seen. You go first, and your
Okay, that's
opponent
a
chummies
chummy
you,
issue.
and you
That's
don't
not a
have it.
Draco Tail issue.
It's a deck design issue
All
by modern standards.
Okay, but then you can, whatever. But then you can look at the rest of these decks in the top two, and you're like, okay, do I even want a Fua branded or Cool Tune? Like branded, probably yes, but like Cool
Yes,
Tune, you're like, okay, like maybe. Like you would rather troll them for
I
sure.
think Cool Tune is one of the best chummy decks as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, like
yes,
yeah,
because it doesn't
I'm
play
gonna really
chummy.
happy like with Cool Tune having chummies and legitimately 20 hand traps in their deck. Like this is gonna be a lot of fun for everybody. Like with Draco Tail, like you were just like, I don't want to give them more cards to fuse with, but like with Cool Tune, you're like, they're going to draw 6 interrupts for me. Like it's not the same.
Wait,
I won't dispute the chummy
I
issue.
think we're speaking differently. I'm saying
Yes,
Cool Tune is one of the best decks into chummies. I
No, no,
don't
yeah.
actually
no, no,
like the chummies in Cool Tune that much.
yes.
Okay,
No, no,
I
I
think
was saying Dracotail plays chummies the best.
no,
I
yeah.
think the chummies are like when you're building Cool Tune, you get to like a 36 card deck, and it's like, all right, I'm either playing Mourner, Ogre, or I'm sticking these chummies in my deck. Like you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
start
I
running
agree.
out of things to play.
No,
I don't
yeah,
think they're that great in the Cool Tune deck.
agreed.
They're
But
like
no, I
okay.
think, but like, if you're playing Cool Tune and you're going second into a meta, you're like, I mean, why not just put that in? Because I'm gonna draw whatever good cards I have anyways, and like you're legitimately
Yeah,
just out of good hand traps at that point. Like you're just at 20 or 21. You're like, do
Yeah.
I want Mourner
Although
against
it is weird
branded
though
or?
because like when you play the Cool Tune mirror, like if you foo with a mirror, it
Mhm.
actually makes like a lot of your hand traps like less viable. Like your bells become dead, your imperms aren't as good, your veilers aren't as good. Like it's not that great to really foo with a mirror. It's like it's just fine.
Yeah.
Like
This is
I don't
why,
think foo
yeah,
pairs with the hand trap super well.
Okay.
agreed. Yeah, if people have seen the deck profile I did after Nats and Judeo, who won Brazilian Nats with our list, well, the list that myself and Hash put together as well, he said a similar thing, which is that I actually think Fuo is kind of underwhelming against Cooltoon, and I think especially in Cooltoon mirrors very often. because like what you're saying there, a lot of the time you're trying to stop them playing the game, and then the Fua is kind of invalidating their hand traps because then they just your other hand traps because they just go, okay, make track maker, set to KTS, have their own hand traps pass, and then your hand traps in your hand aren't doing anything to actually trade with them, and then it makes it really really awkward.
What if you just hold
Um,
Fua for your turn?
It's
You can do it
okay.
sometimes. Yeah.
The problem is like you just want to stop them.
I mean,
It's the same with
you
every
probably
other
prefer to
matchup.
just like have breakers or like have like
Well, the-
storm plus hand traps, right? But like,
Yeah, the
I
other
don't think
problem with
it's like
holding Fua is like even if they give you 2-3 draws on your own turn, you're gonna start drawing into the same stuff. Bells
like, dead.
and
Yeah.
ogre, yeah, like
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't do a lot. Like Fua is just like it's just all around okay. Like there are some hands where like Fua is like insane into the mirror. Like when they have to start Q and they don't have like a good thing to summon from hand to dodge the Fua like becomes really insane there. Or like when you have like Fua with Harmonia, I think those also pair pretty well. But there's also a lot of times you Fua the mirror and you're like, damn, I wish this was like literally any other card in the game. Like any other hand trap or non-engine would have been
But
better.
like at that point, how many are left?
Yeah, that's the thing. You're running out. Like
Yeah.
right now, like I have 2 Fua in my Cool Tune deck right now, and I'm not really happy with it, but I'm also not like upset with it.
Yeah, like I'm so, like even if this is like a side deck card, like I'm not saying the card's broken. Like I think this is legitimately a format that like when you look at these lists that these decks that we have down the bottom, like how many of them do you even want to Fua? It's like half,
Not many.
right? Like maybe
Not
half.
many.
Yeah, every deck they're coming out with has like solid like chummy game plans, which I think is good.
Yeah, like I don't hate it. Like I like that Fua is not oppressive like Maxi, and like decks are able to half board into it. Maybe some of the half boards like Purification and like Flame. Like I'm not gonna argue that it's perfect, but I don't hate where Yu-Gi-Oh is headed design wise. KT having dumb mechanics aside, obviously, but in general, I think they made good decisions. Alrighty, Cormac, where would you put the next deck? Like what do you think is third on this list?
I think looking at these decks, I've played a lot into Mitsurugi with Cool Tune, and I think it should be pretty good in the position in the format. I think it's definitely like a top 5 deck. I don't know if it's necessarily the third best here. I think between Mitsurugi, Doomsy, and probably Sky Striker of the ones that we've pulled out here, they're probably the most viable ones to sort of go into that A tier as like the next ones up. And I think the benefit of something like Mitsurugi is that say you're coming into this format fresh, I think the barrier to getting up to a decent win rate into the other decks against the vast majority of players on Branded and on Cool Tune is probably a lot lower than if you're picking up Branded or Cool Tune itself.
Really?
Like for example, yeah, I would say so. Yeah. I think the play patterns of Mitsurugi, there are some things that make things a little bit slightly complex. But if you're comparing it to say having to learn how to play Cool Tune into all these decks, so trying to throw infinite breakers at you and be very very aggressive, or just trying to learn Branded in general, which is a very very complex deck. I think Mitsurugi has like the floor, well not necessarily the floor, but like the skill floor of it is probably like a lot higher than these other decks.
Yeah, honestly,
So,
I'm looking at these decks, and honestly, most of them are pretty difficult outside of Malice.
yeah. Malice is the
Like-
other sleeper one that I probably have in like top 5, probably around about 5th place.
Yeah, like the Lunalight
just
deck, like
like
obviously has a very simple game plan to Mitsu, similar of just like summon a Laggard Dancer, right? But like we've had like Santoli on here discuss it, and like we've seen have Ryan who's had success with the deck. We're like, yeah, it's like just like incredibly hard, and like people just like aren't investing the time into it. So
I don't think
it
you
wouldn't
have it on
surprise
the.
me
Oh,
if
you
like
do, yeah.
I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I was just talking to myself.
You're good.
I think the Elf Note deck's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's like what I was just thinking right there. Is like I think
Yeah,
the
it's actually
deck
pretty
is not
straightforward.
that hard.
Okay.
It's not that hard, yeah.
So like
Summon
in
guy,
terms of
add guy.
difficulty, I think it's like this probably, like those three on the bottom. Like obviously that's not what we're doing, but I think those three are definitely the simplest. And I think I kind of like that like Branded, Cool Tune, and then I think Doomsday is probably like one of the more. I'm not sure how linear you think it is. Like, what do you think, Ron?
I have a thought.
Please share it.
Okay. So, my prediction is, and this is what I said like really early on, is I think Doom Z is going to be taking a backseat in the format after Columbus or heading into Columbus.
Mhm.
And I genuinely do think that Elf Note takes its spot as the 5th best deck. Because one of the issues is you look at a lot of the decks that we're looking at for like top 5, Branded, Mitsu, Doom Z, Striker. What they all have in common is that they're all playing breakers. Doom Z is very poor into breakers. So while yes, it has a good Cool Tune matchup and takes advantage of its strong engine and its breakers, but if like 4 out of the 5 decks that you're playing in the format are all bringing breakers to the field, then
Mm.
your win rate kind of decreases overall going first because you don't have no way to mitigate it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a deck like Elf Note thrives on when people are playing breakers against it because it just hand rips for 2 plus sets up like diverse interactions. So I generally do think that although Doomsy had a really good initial first week of showing, I think it's going to take the back seat because I just generally don't see this deck winning when a lot of non-engine is just breakers, Fua, and Droll in the main deck, rather than like the one-to-one hand traps that it trades well against, and then the Cool Tune deck able to bring in a Ghost Ogre and Harmonia into this deck. So I do think that Elf Note probably is going to be taking the slot for the 5th best deck, and it's going to be a bit of a metagame shift. But it's one of those decks I think it's going to keep flip-flopping back and forth, just depending on what the flavor of the week is.
Yeah, so Logan, you put I think the most time into testing for Columbus. What is your thought on Doomsday versus Cool Tune, real quick, enough to like get too in depth?
I don't. It's another matchup where I don't really understand the people saying that like Doomsday has like this super favorable matchup. I think when Cool Tune goes first, it's gonna win like a crazy high amount of the games against Doomsday because they have like low non-engine, and the non-engine they're playing is like honestly pretty weak. Like if I look at my opponent's hand and they have 5 Doomsday cards and a Forbidden Crown, like they're gonna lose. I don't care about this Forbidden Crown card. I don't think it's that strong. Um, like the only games I feel like I'm really ever losing to Doomsday when I go first is like they Fua me or they like hit me with a good Droll, which like isn't that often. I don't think the Cool Tune deck like really cares about Droll that much. But when they have Droll and Breakers, it's a little different than Droll plus hand traps. And then like when they have one of those 2 cards plus a Breaker plus good engine, then it's scary. But that's like a 5-card god hand for them to have. There's just so many games you look at the Doomsday hand and they have like an okay breaker, like an awkward brick, and then they have like 2 starters that are repeating and like 2 normal summons. It's like it's not that hard to deal with. Now when Doomsday goes first, it's definitely tough. A lot of your hand traps don't trade super well. Like Bell does like effectively nothing against that deck. And then I think like Imperm and Valor are good to have, but you only really want to see like exactly one against that deck. You don't really want to see multiple. You can find spots to use multiple, but you're kind of end up hand looping yourself. But there's also going to be games where like you just draw like Imperm Ogre or Imperm Fadralis and like a couple of good Cool Tune cards and you kind of just beat them. I think it's like maybe slightly Doomsday favored, but I don't think it's that big of a deal really. I think the deck's okay. I prefer the Elf Note deck. I think that deck's better. I think the fact that that deck can play Fadralis with Lulu to summon Ecclesia is really broken. And I think going first, the deck just has like cards that are stickier into hand traps.
I mean,
Like
Fallen
your
and
cards
Alpha, Fallen the White on its own, right?
yeah, Fallen of the White is just like insane. And I think another thing about the Elf Note deck is it has the ability to like main deck 5 or 6 chummies with no like not a lot of downside because you have a lot of ways to get monsters out of your hands with like Elf Note Welcome Home and like there's even games where like you can like normal some of the chummy and depending on like what your tuner setup is, you can like utilize them that way as well. So I think you can
Yeah.
play like 4 or 5 or 6 chummies in that deck with no problem. So if I was like entering a YCS and I had to pick between Elf Note or Doomsday, I would pick Elf Note branded right or Elf Note Fallen right now.
By the
Me
way,
too,
guys,
no bias.
check out Rahan's guide that he wrote. This is not definitely not a shill, right? Surely not.
Wait, I'm changing my mind. I would play Doomsday now. I'm
I
not a
think
shill. I promise I'm not a shill.
No,
I think one of
the
the
fact that Logan agrees with him means he's actually not crazy because I think
Me and Rahan
the two of you
don't
disagree
agree on many
on more than
things.
anything. Like if you've seen
Yeah.
our Discord chat this week, it is just like them arguing over how to build a branded deck, and it's hilarious.
And I don't even play branded. I don't even play
I-
branded.
Yeah, Rahan's like, I've been playing this deck for
No.
4 years and it's fine, and Logan's like, your deck sucks. Like, what are you doing?
Sucks. Put Radiant Typhoon Visions in.
It's fantastic. Alrighty, so I will fill this in how I would do it. You tell me if there's anything wrong with this. I don't know which of these is better, but like I think this is kind of how I perceive the format.
Yeah, I agree.
Something like this. Cormac, I'm not sure what you played post Nationals, and you probably won't play for another month or something until you win WCQ, but like, what are your current thoughts based off of this?
Yeah, I mean, this looks roughly in line. Yeah, you're correct. I'm probably not playing for the next month because I'm playing a different card game for the next while, and then I'll lock back in for Yu-Gi-Oh towards the end.
That's you too.
So yeah, this looks probably roughly in line. I don't have too much experience against the Elf Note deck or with the Elf Note deck. I will admit that, but
Same.
I think two of the most powerful cards in the format are just Vidralis and Brandon and White or Fallen and White. So I think just getting to play both those cards in your deck is just a huge boon for it. So without having had too much experience, I think that deck is just it gets to play both of those. You're in a pretty good spot. Most of these other decks they seem fine. I did mention earlier, I think Malice is like kind of, I don't even know it's necessarily a sleeper. I just think it's the other deck that can play a lot of hand traps as non-engine, and it can play some of the most impactful ones because you can play a lot of the Dominus cards, which some of these other decks can't do. And I think it has a decent cool tune matchup as a result of that, because your engine, if you same as always with Malice, if your hands can either like lose to one hand trap or it can play through everything, But this deck, I think its engine pieces, they generally trade well in this sort of hand trap mirror against Cool Tune. Apart from Vidralis is just out of control and stupid. But against things like your Veilers and your Imperms and things like that, like the Malice decks and sort of in that hand trap war, its cards can sometimes be a little bit more efficient in that sense. So it's probably one thing I think would be going for it.
I mean, you're also talking about Fallen and White being a very good card in the format. You look at these top 6 decks, like, I think Bestials are good into, like, at least half of them, if not, like, 4 if you look at, like, Magnum potentially shuffling your deck against KT and, like, having some... I think he has, like, some niche use cases against Doomsy. No? I don't remember. No. I know it's, like, okay in a Striker, right, if you hit Rose, like, and they only play one, like, so it depends on that deck build. Like, at a minimum, it has, like, 3 decks in the top 6 that we perceive to be solid, so that alone just gives it some additional value.
If you guys couldn't play one of these, like, what is this, 9 decks here? What
Yeah, I was
would,
gonna say,
what would be
that
the
was
tech?
a nice
Yeah, what would
question.
be
Good
your
job,
tech
Logan.
pick? Yeah, what is the next
Yeah,
deck?
but like, so the four.
I
Okay,
know
like
Rahan's
Rahan,
answer.
you were subtweeting about this deck, so I already had it saved. Like I knew what was coming. So Rahan is a big fan of the RDA deck. Please give your little spiel about it.
Okay, so to take everything Cormac said about Malice, but add Vidralis Harmonia, and you get Red Dragon Archery. So I think everything, literally everything that you were saying about the non-engine being really impactful, being able to play like all the best cards. And I put this tweet out, I think like earlier this week, and everyone and their mother was like trying to guess like what deck had 93% consistency, able to play all the best like non-engine, in the game right now, and had like a way to lock out Cool Tune and Brandon and Floodgate them. It's the RDA deck. This deck is actually really good. When I built this deck, you're able to play Fua and also be able to use it as a body to get a non-tuner onto the field. So it's actually really good. Droll, you're able to make really good use of Mag because you have dragons in engine, but also you're able to search Bestial Lebellion, Baldrake, or Vidralis Harmonia, which is really good. You're able to play Dominus Spark, Impulse, and Vidralis Harmonia. And because you want to make level 8 synchros, you're able to use Vidralis Harmonia to its maximum potential by sending Lulu to get Fallen of White onto the field and include Fallen of White and be able to play Fallen Virtuous. So I'm like, okay, I look at this deck and there's no way this deck cannot be good. It plays all the best cards in the game.
It'll find a way.
Exactly, and you're able to like play like Branded Etude, which means you're able to lock out Cool Tune and Branded and floodgate them. So I thought it was really cool. So personally, I think that's the actual sleeper deck of the format. Like Cormac's sleeper deck is like half awake. This is the actual sleeper deck of the format.
Yeah, no one knows this thing exists. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's selling like it's a dragon deck, right? Like I can't be that mad. The issue was he sent me the deck list, and I was like, I just visually this is just disgusting. Like I don't want to play this. Also saying 93% consistency is extremely generous. I just like look at it, and I'm like, I can't imagine my deck does anything like a quarter of the time. He sent me some replays. I'm gonna go watch them.
The deck is solid. I can vouch.
I don't think it's bad. I think all the selling
Tristan
points
and I
are real.
put some time into it. It's solid.
Yeah, but also like the benefit of Malice is you also don't lose to all of those cards, and I think RDA does have that issue where like a fair amount of like the 1-for-1 hand traps can actually be impactful, and your engine I don't think is as resilient as Malice. So definitely some downsides to it.
But you haven't seen the replays yet.
I've watched at least one of them.
I've seen some replays.
Oh, Cormac just hopped it. I remember this. Yes. Alrighty. So
Yeah.
that is the sleeper deck for those who follow Rahan on Twitter. There you go. That is the outs. I pulled up some other decks that I have heard like get some hype. Like there's whatever else in this tier list if y'all think I'm missing something. Power Patron, like the pure deck, which has an FTK to my understanding with the rank 10 guy. Power Patron Archmage, which we obviously saw. I'm not sure how much Power Patron, but like Archmage K9 win Vegas with Coder. And
Up
then
to
we've
my
got
nuts as
Yummy
well.
Fiendsmith, and like Logan is just like the yummy guy. So like
Am I the yummy guy?
I mean, for on this podcast, you're the yummy guy.
On
I've
this
never touched
podcast,
that deck in
yeah,
my
I'm
life.
the yummy guy, yeah.
So of these three or anything else, like is Centurion gonna make its way back? Is like Magnet Warrior gonna be a playable deck? Like, is there as a Mina deck like that deck popped off and then just like did nothing like right after? So like, is there anything
I have
that
I
we're
have an
missing?
answer for this, yeah. So if I couldn't play one of these 10 decks on the screen, because I would play Red Dragon Archery before I play this deck, I would play the Primite Odeon Dominus deck with every Dominus card and every Cyframe card in my deck. This is the 11th best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh right now, and fight me about it.
Okay, if we're going down this path, I'm just playing an aircraft and I'm just absolutely trolling everybody.
I think once you get past deck 9, it's like it does not matter. Like Enneacraft, like the Enneacraft deck is the first deck I've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh that plays 40 engine cards and they're all go first cards. Like I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Like not only do they play 40 engine cards, they also main deck like D-Fissure sometimes and like the trap card that like books everything. Like it's like dedicated go first cards. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
But the deck is scary.
There's like the Fairy Tale deck that Triss been hyping up. Like we're missing some stuff for it that comes out in Chaos Origins, I think.
Yeah.
Battles of Legend.
Battles of Legends, okay.
This deck is poop. Okay.
Yeah.
Predaplant
Even with Snow
is
coming
okay.
out, like this is like the Snow deck.
Dude, Snow's not even that good in this deck.
That's hilarious.
It's
am
like
I missing
it's really not
anything?
utilized that well.
So if I
Predaplant
had
is
to guess,
okay.
the only playable
it
way
on
to
here,
include
so-
Yummy cards in your deck now is like this, like monstrosity of like Radiant Typhoon with Tri-Brigade and Yummy.
Yeah, even then
Like,
you have one
yeah.
chant, one cup, so good luck.
Yeah, like you don't love it, but like that deck all the I don't know what I'm saying. That deck could always bridge back and forth between everything.
You have Magnet Warrior on here?
I do. It is somewhere on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got this.
Magnets unironically would be higher than like
Yeah.
pretty much everything else in C tier.
I agree.
I think it sounds like Crimson deck is better just because like Fidralis plus Spark. Like I prefer those over Purge. I think against like the top two decks.
Yeah.
Magnets
I
are really
also
good.
think
Super
Magnets
Poly
is a
deck.
very like powerful deck. It can play like good on energy. You can play like super polys and things like that.
Yeah,
like,
you do have that benefit. Am I missing anything? This seems about right. Like the Predaplant deck got like hyped for like a day and a half,
Archmage
maybe.
is like okay.
Which one, sorry?
Archmage. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have that.
I have that right here. So
yeah,
we'll
Archmage
put
is,
all
like,
these
fine.
down in the whatever bullet here. There we go. So yeah, this is probably the perception of the format. Like obviously, like you can do well with anything. Like Enneacraft was topping last format, so like God bless them. God bless them. Like they found a way to make it work. But like Gem Knight, even Anthony Zhu put it down. He swapped over to a different combo swap deck.
Yeah.
So like he understood that some of these decks like
I would put Predaplant like on the actual tier list. I think that deck's solid. I think it's fine. I think it's definitely playable.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Logan plays way more Yu-Gi-Oh than I do, so I trust everywhere that comes out of his mouth.
But like we're also like, what is this, deck 17 or deck 16?
Yeah. I mean, I think legitimately
if-
everything after Magnet Warrior is probably not worth touching.
If Predaplant got
Alright, I'll say
like,
Enneacraft, whatever.
top 16 at Columbus, it wouldn't really shock me. I would be way more shocked if fucking Enneacraft got top 16 at a
There's no
YCS.
shock.
I actually would not.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked if like Enneacraft got top 8. Genuinely, that deck is scary.
Dude,
you could
I
have a
get
good
eye
day.
cancer looking at every Enneacraft deck list. I saw this extra deck that had like triple Malong in the extra deck and like half a Cool Tune extra deck in there. It's like she did a deck profile. And she's like, "Yeah, I just showed the Cool Tune cards of my opponent." I'm like, "Dude, this deck's not real. Like, this is not a real Yu-Gi-Oh deck."
Yeah, when you're giving up like 1/3 of the decks that you can bring to a game, like you're probably already behind, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think this format's like more open than people think. I think every deck has like, even when they come out with like quote unquote bad Yu-Gi-Oh decks, they're still so powerful that if you don't draw the right combination and on engine and like don't know what they do. You're gonna lose to them a lot.
Yeah. The thing that I think is like all of these decks power levels is like pretty comparable. Like I think the discrepancy between Branded and like Canine Vanquishal is like not substantial. Like that's kind of where I'm at with everything. We'll see if like you need more non-engine or whatever, or like what decks non-engine like does well. Like you said, like Elfno gets to play Fitrawless, and maybe that card just like carries it. But I don't think that any engine, like I don't think Mitsurugi is a super oppressive deck at this point, especially with like every deck maining Droll. So I'm just like, okay, like if that's a third best deck, like the power level of Yu-Gi-Oh can just be where like Dark Lord top eight's a YCS. Like, and it wouldn't even surprise me that much unless Cool Tune just like
Yeah.
takes up all of top eight. Like I think all of these decks are just like pretty comparable in power level. Alrighty. We yapped for about an hour, and it's very late for Cormac. So thank you for joining us, sir. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, on this or anything else? Like, okay, we'll do this real quick. Columbus in a week. Y'all pick most topping deck and winning deck. Rahan, start with you.
Most topping deck, I'm going to say, is going to be Cool Tune, just out of sheer representation. Winning deck, I think. Are there any good branded players going?
Probably.
I don't know. I'm not going. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but I think branded, either branded or Cool Tune will win the event.
Pick one.
Branded.
All right, thank you. Cormac?
Yeah, I agree. Cool Tune will be the most repped, if not in top 8, like across top 32 and top 64. If I had to pick a winning deck, something screams to me like Kamal played Branded Elf Note at the weekend, right? I mean, Kamal's like one of the best players.
did,
I
yeah.
just trust him like really well. Play something that's not Cool Tune and be really, really good at it and take advantage of people and maybe not being as clued up on that deck.
But does that
And
deck
relatively
take
new as well.
advantage of it as well as like
think
that
it takes
deck can
advantage of the
struggle going
format,
second more than
right?
I'm sorry.
It can take advantage of the format though. If people are
Maybe.
trying to play these non-hand drop decks, these breaker decks.
I was
I just
think
generally like, yeah.
I was thinking maybe like Striker randomly. Like I don't know, the Brandon matchup may just be pretty rough, but like I don't think the deck's gonna be represented to a point where you like can't win. And if you just have like a really good Cool Tune matchup and you play against like half of them in Swiss, like I think that deck
Yeah.
could just like do really well.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose the way that I think about it is I actually think this format is quite technical.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I'm less so thinking about like the decks and I'm more so thinking about who I think are some of like the best players in the game right now. And if they're playing something that's not just complete standard,
Mhm.
then I think they might just have that little bit of an edge there. So I'm just running through a couple of lists of names in my head and then picking
All
a
right,
deck
so
that
what's
might
Jesse
play.
showing up with? Like that's the real question, right?
That's under NDA.
Yeah, I don't. Even if I had that information, I wouldn't share it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not.
But like he
we'll,
doesn't
we'll
seem
find
like a
out, I
branded
suppose.
guy. Like so I'm rather curious
No.
because like I feel like that's like the high skill expression deck. Like even like when we're talking about like you have to play Cool Tune well, like I don't think
He
it's
doesn't seem like a
like
Cool Tune guy either.
yeah,
He
exactly,
strikes
right?
me as a Doom Z guy.
No,
Yeah, he
no,
wasn't he was an Unchained guy. This deck's like not too far off of
Yeah.
Unchained.
Oh,
Right?
Listen, guys,
Yeah,
right?
although
Jesse?
it could be Brandon because they can play Snow in that deck.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's true, you can play Snow. Listen, Jesse is the heavy engine guy. When he rocks up with the aircraft, that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
God.
If he shows up with Malice, like we know it's cooked. Like the format is truly over.
True.
Alrighty, Logan, what are your thoughts?
Most topping Cool Tune. I just think it's gonna be the most rep by far. Winning, I think it'll also be Cool Tune because I think like one of the players who plays Cool Tune in the room is just gonna go like 80-85% on their die rolls and just win the tournament. If you win 80% of your die rolls with Cool Tune and you play like above average to good, like you're gonna have an insane run. Like
yeah, I
the
agree.
deck is like probably the best going first deck I've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's good against everything.
Even
It
though it
has
doesn't
problems
have
going.
like the Rose Whip win con anymore, like you just think it's just like
I
even
wasn't even
like
playing I wasn't even playing Rose Whip before it got banned. I don't even think
Same.
was that good. It was like good against like some of your like niche matchups like Sky Striker and Radiant Typhoon and like most of the time just get it like searching Ash to your hand is better.
mhm.
To be
I mean,
fair,
yeah,
it would probably be better in this format than in the
It
one
would,
before
yeah.
the ban
It
list.
would be
Yeah.
good against Branded, but I don't think it's that big of an issue. Searching Ash or like if you're playing reframing, you can also do a combo where you get reframing. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a significant hit. I think the Cool Tune deck is ridiculous going first, and if you win a lot of die rolls, you're probably gonna win the event.
Yeah, the one wrinkle I'll add that I'm kind of curious about is like, I mentioned earlier, like you said like playing Vision and playing Allure. Like, do you think like like we'll say Striker or even Mitsu, like those decks that just like can like draw more cards? Like, obviously, I think good Cool Tune players can kind of taking that into account. But like when you like chess like see 7 turns or 7 moves ahead, and now like there's like new information. Like, how do you think that affects the Cool Tune end board?
I think it
Um,
just turns playing Cool Tune into playing any other deck in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Which makes it. I mean, but like that, I think is a lot. Like, I don't think Cool Tune does anything oppressive, like
No,
naturally.
no, it doesn't. No. But I think that goes back to the point that I think I'm generally making, which is that Cool Tune has a lot more technical play underneath the
Yeah.
surface than what we initially think. So in these decks, I think Striker is one of the biggest examples because that deck, like, I mean, sometimes they can hard brick, but in reality, like almost every hand they play is going to be like a bit of a back and forth game. And they're going to be trying to trade interactions with you and they have to understand as well, not just what they're doing on this turn, but how they're setting up for their follow-up turn. It's very different to have almost vast majority of my Yu-Gi-Oh experience for the past couple of years has been where it's been very much like turn 1, turn 2, if you can't break the board, the game is over. It's a little bit more sort of like thinking like not just on this immediate turn. So yeah, like Striker can benefit from that, but I think also if the Cool Team player also recognizes what they're meant to do in that scenario, like play for follow-up and things such as this, it helps a lot.
I think a lot of the Cool Tune players as well have like a really poor understanding of like risk assessment. Like I see so many games where they'll look at 2 cards, it'll be 2 very good cards, and they always give their opponent one of the 2 good cards and take instead of just like giving them a random card. Like they're more afraid of the random card than the known problem.
Mhm.
And there's also a lot of games too, like where somebody has like a Radiant Typhoon Visions or Allure or Desires or whatever, and they're like not willing to use their Omni Negate or their Ash on that and just like deal with the known. They'd rather take a chance on the unknown, which I think not always, but more often than not is incorrect. I think you can usually like curate your game plan to beat what is known.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a
So
poker thing that we're both kind of familiar with, right? Like you would, if you could see hands, like you would just always play the math, and that's kind of where it is now. Like you have a
yeah,
perfect understanding of cards that are known. Like you saw their top deck, you saw their 5. So
and then
like,
you have to know when to like go away from that and like
yeah,
say, okay, bottom deck your guy and hope they draw something bad.
exactly. Yeah. So that's some like I mentioned, like the format is technical. I'm excited to see how it plays out. I kind of wish like this is like a me personal thing. I don't love any of the decks right now, so I may just like play Fallen Elf Notice to like kind of help Rahan make sales or whatever, you know, like because I'll just like read the guide beforehand and be like, "Yep, this is why I topped. I got you guys." So yeah,
but I think one of the things though that I said like earlier on, and when we made like one of our initial YouTube vids together, was that I think Blazing Dominion is going to be a really good format, and I think there's a lot of doom and gloom coming from Master Duel, especially about like Elf Note, and how like toxic the mechanics are. But I think like just some of the discussion that we've had like today, I think just sort of highlights that like Cormac, like when you were sort of thinking about what's going to win Columbus, you weren't thinking about the deck, you're thinking about the player. So I think if anything, that kind of, in my opinion, signals a good format that I think you're thinking more so about like technical play and preparation rather than like deck
yeah,
choice. So I think I'm actually really excited to play Yu-Gi-Oh for this format, even though I won't get to play a lot other than Sweet Weekend. But I think it's going to be a good format. I think.
yeah. I don't think I ever did my guess. My guess was gonna be Cool Tune and then like Branded, just because whoever is good with Branded, I think, is gonna perform very well. So I think that's a pretty stock answer because I think it is way more difficult to be good at Branded than at Cool Tune, just because KT can just like have those games where like you go second and your opponents get to play, and Branded, I think you have to play every game going second to like have a chance. So less auto wins, but that always makes the people that perform on it more impressive because it's difficult to navigate. Alrighty. I think that about wraps it up. I think we'll probably try and do another one maybe after Columbus, maybe a little bit. Because I don't think there's anything between Columbus and what's it? Chaos Origins. There's maybe like some nationals here and there. So maybe we'll talk about like French nationals and
Mm-hmm.
or not French, because
French
French is this
nationals is
weekend,
this
right?
weekend.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it'll be
but
like UK
before the
will be
ban list.
big, German will be
German?
big.
Is
So we'll
there
probably do
German
something.
still? Yeah.
Yeah, something like early June probably. Been a little bit slower as of late, but I got busy and everyone has lives, so
My early prediction, regardless of whatever happens in the format, Mitsu and maybe Striker will do very well at German nationals just because Germans love those decks.
yeah, Mitsu's winning German national. It's probably gonna be Philip. He's finally gonna get the dub, and then Josh is gonna lose in top 4 with Striker. Like it's just written in the stars.
Every time I have a conversation about Yu-Gi-Oh with Philip, within 10 minutes he's like sending me like either some sort of Mitsu deck or like some card he's playing in Mitsu, or like I'm done with the Cool Tune deck, I'm going back to Mitsu. I'm like, come on, bro, put it down, bro. Put down the Mitsurugi cards.
I say even Logan put down the cup, you can put down the snake.
I had to put down the cup, dude.
Alrighty. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see you in the next one.